Welcome, everybody, to the early giving exclusive live stream of the Lunch Launch here at Project Chimps. The residents of Lori and Carly McGrath Chateau A are out in the habitat ready for lunch, where Kivuli and his group mates have the opportunity to participate if they so choose. Today, as food of various types is launched into the habitat via a slingshot on top of Chateau, it's going to be super fun to watch. And if you haven't been to Sanctuary before, but you're planning a trip to the Blue Ridge Mountains, please make sure to upgrade to the Lunch Launch option for your tour. It should not be missed, as you're going to see here today. I'm Jeremy K. Gover, Marketing and PR Manager of Project Chimps here in Morganton, Georgia. And for today's live stream, I'm joined by Chris Pritchard, Behavior Coordinator here at the Sanctuary. Chris, thank you so much for doing this, taking the time, and being able to walk us through everything we're going to see today.
Absolutely.
Can't wait for everyone to hear the amazing insight you have on the chimps and the care staff and all those things. If you are watching this, of course, then live, obviously maybe on archive, but on live, that means you've donated some hard-earned money to the Sanctuary during the early giving process and portion of the Giving Day for Apes campaign. Giving Day for Apes, if you don't know, is a worldwide annual fundraising competition which attempts to give and support accredited and fully qualified sanctuaries and rescue centers that provide rehabilitation or long-term care for apes throughout Africa, Asia, and North America, basically all over the world. Project Chimps is home to over 90 chimpanzees, some of which you'll see today, retired from research, and our goal during Giving Day for Apes here today is $75,000. Chris, let's go ahead and start with the Lunch Launch here, because as we can see some chimpanzees hanging out on the platform there. What is this experience like for you when you kind of not organize, but like when you orchestrate this with some tour groups?
So for me, it's an experience that I get to share with the guests. They get an opportunity to feed chimps, which is not something that you get to do on an everyday basis. And it certainly makes it a very special part of a tour. The guests get really excited, especially when they get food close to the chimp, or if they toss food and a chimp happens to pick up that onion that they may have fed. The guests really do enjoy that. And it helps them make a connection to not only Project Chimps, but the chimps as well that they're feeding. So it is actually a very special opportunity that I do enjoy sharing with our guests that take the time to come on that tour.
Yeah, it's really a neat thing. This started roughly a year ago, I think, give or take a few months. I think we rolled this out. Were there any challenges at the beginning that maybe we've kind of figured out the rhythm of now?
It was just figuring out the best places for the slingshots. And then there's definitely a technique on keeping the food in the slingshot before it flies out. So it was us learning what that best technique was so that we could share that information with the guests so they were most successful in launching the food from the slingshot.
How long does the lunch launch usually last? Maybe not today's, but just like in general, if you were to come toward the Sanctuary and upgrade to the lunch launch, how long do you get to experience this? I mean, this is just amazing to be up there and see all that happens.
Yeah, so the Lunch Launch tour lasts about 30 minutes, depending on how fast the food is going and things like that. Sometimes we run a little bit, maybe like 45 minutes, but it's about a 30-minute tour.
Yeah, and today we're focusing on about 20 to 25 minutes, obviously, because there's no guests up there on the platform right now. It's just this is all for you who gave early during Giving Day for Apes, and we cannot tell you how much we appreciate that. If you gave up to $25 or more, you got a Kivuli magnet that you can choose we can send you. I think Chris has one of those with her as well.
Yeah. Oh, let me get it up there.
It's really awesome. Perfect for the refrigerator, of course. And then, of course, if you gave $113 or more, you got a Kivuli koozie as well, which is super exciting. I really love that.
Cute.
Yeah, I can't wait to get
hold
one of those. Yeah, fits a pint glass. Pretty cool. And then we've got other tiers as well for $513. Home at Last, coffee table book, of course. There's all kinds of things going on. So, really you've got it. Oh, great.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's talks about animal sanctuaries in America, and it also comes with a Kivuli bookmark, which is really, I think, really cool bookmark.
It is awesome. It is really, really cool.
Here we go.
And so if you're noticing the $13 pattern, by the way, it's because Kivuli is our youngest chimpanzee, and he is 13 years old. And that means that he's probably going to need, I mean, with any luck, of course, he's probably going to need what, Chris, 30, 35, maybe even 40 years more of care. And that's where, this Giving Day for Apes, the funding that you provided by being an early giver, and of course giving today on Giving Day for Apes, comes into play. We get to be able to provide care for these amazing creatures for the rest of their lives. And again, if Kivuli is 13, that gives us 30 to 35 more years to be here.
Absolutely.
And it's just such an amazing opportunity to be here. Chris, how did you get into this line of work?
Well, I began as a volunteer at a local zoo in Florida in 1998, volunteering with chimps. And they basically stole my heart. I then became a zookeeper and was a zookeeper in Tampa for a little, about 20 years. I wanted to relocate to North Georgia. I knew about Project Chimps and was very supportive of their mission. So it actually worked out perfect that I wanted to relocate to this area. The timing worked out perfect that I relocated with having a job at Project Chimps. And I really believe in what our mission is and what we do here. So it really was just a lifelong dream. I waited until my kids graduated high school to move. And that's what took me so long to get to Project Chimps, was I was waiting on those milestones to happen in my personal life before it was time for me to relocate to North Georgia.
That's awesome. This is so interesting to me. Can you kind of explain to people that maybe don't know what a behavior, what your job actually is, like an everyday thing, day-to-day tasks maybe that you do?
Yeah, so I'm the behavior coordinator here. That entails a lot of things. It works directly with the care staff. I work directly with the chimps, work with the vet staff. And what we do is I have a relationship with the chimpanzees where we want to get them to present different body parts for inspection, whether there be a wound that maybe the vet may need to look at, or we may want to get a picture of. We just want to make sure overall good body condition as well. So I'll go in and have treats for them and have taught them to present different body parts based on that positive reinforcement relationship. And that's what I do day to day. I work with the care staff with that. I go around, I work with all the chimps on that, also training them to accept an injection, which is not something that is always pleasant, but it's necessary at times. So if we have it trained ahead of time and they're desensitized to that process, it makes the day of sedation that we have to do when we do our healthy exams much less stressful for the chimpanzee because they're already desensitized to seeing those objects. It also is inclusive of if we get new chimps and we want to do introductions. I'm part of that. I watch the new chimps and kind of see what roles those new chimps play within their group and what may work best when we get ready to introduce them to an existing troop. I work with the care staff if they come to me and they're having difficulties in maybe moving the chimps throughout their villa for cleaning purposes. I can go watch and say, hey, well, you may be doing this. You're kind of sending the signal, or you may want to move your doors in this manner because you're sending different signals to the chimps and they look like they're a little confused by that process. So it is working and encompasses a lot of things. But again, I get to go around every day working closely with the care staff and the vet staff with the chimps.
That's amazing. Amazing works. I'm sure super fulfilling as well and rewarding at times, I would imagine.
Oh,
yeah. Yeah.
I think I'm the most rich person on campus.
Switching our attention back to the lunch launch here, we're seeing a flurry of activity, obviously. What kind of foods do they get, Chris? What kind of foods? I know it changes every day or whatever, but just in general, what do they get?
Just for information, Kivuli is out there. He's kind of in the middle.
Okay.
But so in the lunch launch, they get a leafy green, and then they get 2 different types of vegetables. Today it's kale with some celery and eggplant. It changes on a daily basis. Then in the morning, they get a fruit and vegetable as well as a primate biscuit. And then the same for dinner. They'll get a fruit and vegetable as well as a primate biscuit. That primate biscuit has all the minerals and vitamins that they need. And then, like I said, we offer them the additional items like that.
Why those foods? Like why in particular?
As far as the leafy greens, in the wild, chimps eat a lot of vegetation. They live mainly on leaves, nuts, fruits off of trees, things like that. So our leafy greens simulate that. The vegetables that we feed are actually closer to the fruits that are in the wild. And then we offer a fruit and a vegetable. The primate chow makes up the protein portion of their diet. In the wild, they do eat a lot of, about 10% of their diet encompasses some type of protein. So that's what our primate biscuit that we feed them contains, that protein that they do need.
AKA the chimp chow. Yeah.
Yep, chimp chow.
Chimp chow. So when they're out there, there's lunch literally launched into their habitat. I know that everyone's supposed to wear gloves and a mask and all that. Can you kind of, people automatically, I think, oh, COVID, blah, blah, blah. But this is actually not for that reason necessarily at all, right? Can you kind of walk us through why we mask up and put gloves on before we handle the food?
So chimpanzees are susceptible to anything that a human can have. So we don't want to pass any germs that we may have on our hands or otherwise onto the chimpanzees. So we wash their food before it is delivered to the villas. And then we want to keep that food as sanitary as possible from human germs. So we wear the gloves and the masks to help protect passing anything on to the chimps. And then, we could also get anything from the chimp. So those zoonotic diseases can be passed back and forth. So it's also a protection for ourselves when we're working with the chimps that we wear those things because, hey, let's face it, if they sneeze, they don't cover their nose.
Yeah. Yeah. Cover your nose, kids. Okay. So, you mentioned it a little bit. What kind of diet do they get in the wild versus in sanctuary? Obviously, we want to be able to give them as close to a wild experience as possible.
Right.
Being the fact that they're former lab chimpanzees, basically were born and raised in a lab. And so here we give them the choice to go outside if they want. They can climb a tree if they want. They can, whatever it is. But the diet itself, what is the differences between the sanctuary versus the wild?
So with the leafy greens, like I said, that kind of simulates the plant material that they're going to be eating in the wild. In the wild, they're going to climb trees. They're going to be eating the leaves, the bark. They're going to be fishing at termite mounds or beehives. So by us providing the leafy greens and things like that, it does simulate those leafy material. We do offer them as well plant material that is cut. It's chimp safe throughout the sanctuary and it's delivered. Our horticulture team takes care of that for us. They'll drop off chimp safe, what we call browse. So the chimps have opportunity to eat leaves as well if they choose to eat that part of the diet that's offered to them.
Why is it important for them to say search is to browse for their food, right? Like to kind of walk through the habitat maybe and oh, here's a corn and whatever, as opposed to just handing it to them. What does that simulate?
So in the wild, they're going to be moving and foraging for their food. They're going to have to. There's nobody
Foraging.
out there.
That's the word I was looking for.
Yep. Yeah, there's nobody out in the wild, handing them a fruit or anything to eat. They have to go look for it themselves. It creates social bonding as well, as far as eating kind of together. It allows for dominant animals to kind of rule kind of what's going on with the motion of things. So it allows for very natural chimp behavior, which is something we want to create as much as possible as it is in the wild. In the wild, the dominant animals kind of dictate the movement of the troop. So by us allowing that forage opportunity as well, you'll see a lot of times maybe the dominant male going out and others kind of following them around that habitat and doing patrols, which is much like they do in the wild, and searching for that food. It also allows an opportunity for exercise. We want them to have that opportunity to get out and explore and exercise versus just sitting in one spot eating something. We want them to do as they would in the wild, searching for that food. And that foraging opportunity allows, again, for that social kind of networking to happen. It allows dominant animals to kind of dictate some things. And that is as close to a wild group as you can get.
If you've seen the Netflix series Chimp Empire, which is incredible, you've seen the patrolling right firsthand. So
Yep.
there's Chris, I don't know if they're getting, I don't know if they're getting the toss to them today, but they are a big fan of onions, I hear.
They do love onions. It is one of their favorite foods. Today, they're getting some eggplant and celery. They do love eggplant as well, but definitely onion is by far their favorite vegetable that they get.
And they eat them like apples. Is that correct?
Oh, yeah. They'll just bite into them.
The next time you're in the kitchen, out there, tearing up over an onion, just think, man, a chimpanzee would love this whole thing as is, you know?
Oh, yeah. They love them.
One of our early givers, Henry Brent, has a question for you, Chris. How do the chimps adapt to cold conditions during the winter? Obviously, we have temperature controlled setup for them, but just obviously in the wild and then in sanctuary, how do chimps adapt to the different climates?
Yeah, they're actually very well adapted. They have hair that helps protect them and keep them warm. And like you said, here we have heated elements for them. So it's their choice to go out on habitat. I've seen them go out and collect snow and then come running back into the building and kind of make their own snowballs like that. This climate is pretty close to actually where they are found in Africa as far as heat and humidity and the temperature. We don't get too cold. So we're really lucky in Georgia that we can give them the opportunity to go out on a daily basis, where some places further north only have indoor areas because it does get too cold for them. But this area has temperatures that are relatively close to actually where they're found in the wild.
And there are some that enjoy the snow. Yeah. When it does rarely snow in Georgia, it does come, that element comes at them, and some of them embrace it.
Oh yeah. Yeah. They'll go out in it. And like I said, they'll collect snow and kind of make their own little snowballs and eat them.
I guess you've never seen it before. It is kind of interesting. Chris, as we mentioned before, like this whole broadcast here, the live broadcast is for the early givers of Giving Day for Apes. We cannot thank you enough for giving to the sanctuary during this moment in time. A goal of $75,000 today before midnight tonight Eastern. And we thank you for all your contributions. Your early giving has not only allowed you to watch this live broadcast, and get the insights of Chris, of course, but also it allows us to provide for the chimpanzees. Each chimp, Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, is roughly, on average, $33,000 per year. And we have 95 of them. So it's quite an undertaking, but those things, that $33,000, that accounts for food, basic veterinary care, those kinds of things, correct?
Correct. Yeah, it covers the staff that takes care of them, their food, the veterinary care, what it takes to actually run the villa, and it does encompass that.
And slingshots. Don't forget slingshots.
Yeah.
As we're seeing right now. Okay, so we've got some chimps on the platform there. There was one earlier in the hammock under the platform. We got one above the platform visually. It's not on the platform, but and then of course in the tires there. Do they have favorite places, Chris? You're a behavior specialist. Do they like certain things? Can you talk about the personalities and the variousness of those?
Yeah, there's definitely groups that use the habitat different than other troops. Often the Harmony troop will go up on top. I don't know if you can see the tree platform high up in that tree. A lot of times they'll have females that will go up there. This group tends to use that lower platform with the hammock and those tires a lot. And there are chimps that like to just hang out in the hammock and relax throughout the day, sun themselves on top of that platform there, or hang out in the tire. And each chimp kind of has their own little space that they like to use. And like I said, each troop is different in the space that they use throughout this habitat.
And then the enrichment is a big deal. We've talked about, the foraging for food and things like that, but they've also got some enrichment things. It's an important part of their lives here at the sanctuary. We talked about, of course, also the trying to mimic as best we can their what their experience would be in the wild, but of
Right.
course they can't just go back to Africa, right? Because they just wouldn't have the survival skills
No.
to adapt, and so therefore this is their best opportunity to actually live a chimpanzee life, and we're very, very happy and proud to give it to them. But enrichment's a big part of that. Can you kind of explain the different types of enrichment?
Yeah, so enrichment, its purpose is to try and simulate some type of natural behavior, whether it be tool use. So we have, you can't see it in the video, but we have what's a termite mound that is fashioned. It's our version of a termite mound. Now these guys don't eat insects, but they do love to use tools, and so they'll use a stick, and we'll put applesauce or different things within the tubes. And so it does mimic that natural behavior of them having to fish at what would be a termite mound for termites. If we tried termites here, they would just ignore it. But so we'll put things that still simulate that natural behavior, the problem solving behavior, the tool use behavior, because they have to problem solve. How can I extract this applesauce I want out of this hole? Let me get a stick. And it'll, simulates that natural fishing for either honey or termite mounds. We also use different food items that is different on a daily basis. So it's exciting to them and it changes it up. In the wild, they're going to be foraging. They're going to come along different things throughout their day. And so by giving them a variety of food that is enriching to them, we also do some sensory things, different smells. In the wild, they're going to come across different smells. They're going to be traveling throughout their habitat. They're going to smell other chimp troops. They're going to come across different smells of animals. And so, we have different sensory smells that we'll give them and different puzzles that we'll give them that, again, allows them to use their problem solving, which they're really good at. Especially when it comes to food items, they're really good at getting those puzzles and working with it. And they have, the patience, and it allows them an opportunity to use the brain and again, problem solve on how to extract that food item that they want out of that puzzle.
During a lunch launch like this, is there any kind of, is there any kind of that thing going on? It's not enrichment per se, but is there anything?
It's definitely enriching for them because we don't do it on a daily basis. So it keeps it special. And, they're not always fed out on habitat like this. So it does keep it enriching for them to be able to have that opportunity to forage. And using the slingshot, we can get it in different areas and can position it different throughout the habitat. And it allows them that opportunity to forage. Like I said, because we don't do it every day, it keeps it enriching for them.
Speaking of every day, this is a fascinating fact that I learned when I first got hired at Project Chimps. If we give them the same food on Monday, and then the next Monday, and then the next Monday, they will figure out what they're getting, right? And that's why we vary things up. Is that correct?
Yeah, they're really smart. Especially when it comes to counting, they know that they get 2 pieces of fruit in the morning, the females, and then in the evening, they only get 1 piece of fruit. So, but the males, they all know they get 2 pieces of this. So they'll wait like, all right, where's my other one? They understand patterns as well. So, they know we try and do our best to switch things up for them. And by changing their food item on a daily basis, it allows for that.
And that's why the lunch launch food changes as well, obviously, even though it's not every day. If they get different things, they don't really know what to expect, and it makes it more interesting.
Right. Yeah. Sometimes there's radishes and onions.
Yeah. And they love onions. For those who can't, I know you can't see it on the frame, so I want to make sure we explain. The slingshot is, Chris, what would you say? Probably right, maybe the third of the screen, like right around here. Is that where on the platform where the slingshot would be, correct?
Yeah, it's right around there.
Yeah, and so there's another one, of course, that's center of the platform as well. But this camera here is showcasing this part of the yard, and so we want to make sure that we, explain where that food is coming from. Chris, as we kind of wrap up here, first of all, again, thank you so much for doing this. Really appreciate your insight is
Yeah.
invaluable, and hopefully people that are watching this, get a lot out of it. I know I have, and I work with you. Why, why is it important for people to donate during, I mean, all year round, but Giving Day for Apes in particular? Why is it important? Because you're on the front line, so you see the end result and sometimes the middle result of those donations.
Yeah, so it is important to donate. We're a non-for-profit, so we rely on donations. And Giving Day for Apes gives us an opportunity to highlight special things and to collect those donations. And it allows us to help take care of these chimps for their entire lives. And earning money today helps us meet certain goals that we're trying to meet. And that's what the Giving Day for Apes helps us do.
And what kind of things does the money go towards? I mean, obviously we talked about enrichment, right? Food, the basic veterinary care, those kinds of things. Obviously the wages of chimp care, all those things. But is there any kind of thing else that maybe people wouldn't expect?
I think it just goes for the overall, care of the chimps. Yeah. It may help, we have a facilities team that helps when things break down. So this money helps us take care of, pay that team or buy the supplies. If we want to provide a new item for the chimps, this money helps us provide enrichment items for the chimps. That is something that, we may not be able to purchase without some of these donations. Certainly some items can be very expensive for them. They have to be made basically indestructible to be able to give to the chimps. So that can cost a lot more that, a round ball that you would think would maybe cost $20 really and actually cost about $70. And so to be able to provide 95 chimps with what is called a boomer ball can get extremely expensive. So it helps us be able to purchase these items that are special and unique for them.
Well, I want to thank everybody who's joining us, obviously, for your donation during the early Giving Day for Apes period. We had a couple of donations come in during this broadcast. I can't personally say if they were because Chris and I have been talking, but but I can say I know they came in during the show, and we want to thank Michael Robbins and Mars Quave for their donation during the show, and especially if it was because of the show. So thank you very much for that. Chris, as we close out here, in your own words, why do we do what we do?
So we want to offer these chimps a lifelong choice of opportunity on how to live as a chimp should live. Unfortunately, their lives started out in a different path than a wild chimp has. Yes. They don't have the capabilities to go back to the wild. And a lot of times there's not a wild place for them to go to even, with habitat destruction and things like that. So for us to be able to provide exemplary care for them, not only medically, but physically and mentally is extremely important. And I'm very passionate about the care that we provide for these chimps so that they can have a very respectful life for the rest of their life and not have a life that they had in the lab.
Amen to that. Thank you all for joining us here on our very first live stream of a lunch launch here at Project Chimps. We very much hope you'll make plans to visit the Blue Ridge Mountains soon. And when you're there, you should come see us and get a sanctuary tour, upgrade to that lunch launch so you can be the one standing on the platform launching onions and other kinds of things to the chimps. It's so much fun. There's so much joy, as Chris talked about earlier, in the guests that get to do that. It is absolutely worth every single penny. And we cannot thank you enough for your donations again during Giving Day for Apes. If you care to support us even further, of course, we would love that. We're trying to get to that $75,000 goal here today before midnight. And we would love your help, whether it's spreading the word, sharing it on social media, whatever the case is. We really appreciate everything. Henry, thank you for your question earlier. Thank you to everybody who's donated during the show. Thank you for everyone who's going to continue to donate to Project Chimps. We cannot thank you enough. Have a wonderful day and happy Giving Day for Apes.
Thank you.